Okay, and then, I should point out that once I pin the screen, I cannot see anybody. So if you're raising your hand, I may not see it. So please don't get upset. Just speak up. I can definitely hear. I may not be able to see you, but I can definitely hear. And so if that's okay with you, please just speak up if you have a question to ask. Other times, I'd appreciate very much if you could just keep yourself on mute. And then we just go from there. Okay. All right. So first order of business is, are there any questions from last week? Okay. If not, then I'm going to actually share the screen one more time. There was a question that came to me after the class was over. And so I want to address that question because it's a very good question, and I need to show you a picture for that. So let me share the screen, and here it is. Can everyone see it?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. All right. So what we're talking about, remember we talked about 3 stages of bhakti. And so basically we have 3 stages. One is here, one is here, right? And one is here. So you have sadhana bhakti, you have bhav bhakti, and prema bhakti. We talked about that. And then under sadhana bhakti, we say you have vaidhi bhakti and you have raganuga bhakti. Okay? And raganuga bhakti leads to bhav bhakti. Okay? That part is clear, right? Then we talked about the 9 stages that one goes through to achieve the prema bhakti. And we talked about under vaidhi bhakti, we have shraddha, sadhusang, bhajan kriya, artha nivritti. Okay, was that part clear?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Then after artha nivritti, you get to nishtha. Now, before I go further, I want to explain something else. This is not sequential. In other words, it's not that when your shraddha stage is complete, then you move on to sadhusang. That stage is complete, you go to bhajan kriya. When that stage is complete, you go to artha nivritti. It doesn't work that way. It basically goes back and forth, back and forth. So you may have little shraddha, you do little sadhusang. You do little bhajan kriya, little bit of artha nivritti is done. You go back to bhajan sadhusang, you go to bhajan kriya, little more. So it just goes on that way. Okay, it's not like perfected stage, next stage, not like that. So you're going back and forth. Okay. So similarly, nishtha, which is the beginning of raganuga bhakti, could actually happen when you're still in vaidhi bhakti. A little amount of nishtha. Remember, nishtha is firm faith. So this is soft faith. This is firm faith. Okay. So the faith can start to firm up while we're still in vaidhi bhakti. It's just that when it's complete, that's the beginning of raganuga bhakti. Is that part clear? And then again, we go back and forth, nishtha to ruchi, which is the taste. And then with the taste, you develop the asakti, which is the attachment. But again, here also you go back and forth. And only when we are complete in asakti, then we get to bhava bhakti. And then we mature in bhava bhakti, we get to prem bhakti. Bhava bhakti is the preliminary stage of prem bhakti. So is that clear?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Any questions on this? Okay. All right.
Prabhuji, that.
Sorry. Go ahead, please.
I mean, artha nivritti is okay, but is it anartha nivritti?
Isn't that what I said? Anartha nivritti? What did I say?
Artha nivritti. That is also.
I can't spell. Thank you for asking. It's anartha nivritti. I'll go back to school and learn how to spell. But yeah, it's unearth. Unearth means the unwanted things. Earth means basically either meaning or money sometimes. But earth is sometimes opposite of unearth. Unearth. Okay, so I'm sorry, that's a wrong spelling mistake. It's unearth. Thank you for noticing it. Any other questions or comments? Yeah.
Prabhu, can you please re-explain prarabdha? Just like a one word for that.
Yeah, so I'm going to explain that to you, but then I'll get into a lot of details on that. Prarabdha basically means destiny. Whatever your destiny is in this birth is your prarabdha. Okay, is that what you're looking for? Or we're looking for something different?
No, last time when we discussed a lot of things around it. So I was just looking
Yeah,
for
so-
like when you
yeah,
use
so
it in
it-
regular life, how would you refer to that word?
Yeah, so if you give me a few minutes, we will discuss that in great detail today. Okay? Haribol? Is that acceptable? Haribol?
Hanji Prabhu, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Haribol.
I was getting worried when I get an answer, say, oh. Okay, all right. So let's move on. And I promise you, your question will be fully answered. Okay, all right.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Huh.
Prabhuji, I just want to confirm, like when a devotee attains the stage of Nishtha or Asakti, still they follow the process of Vedi Bhakti?
Remember, they're in Raganuga Bhakti now at that time, which means they have basically passed Anartha Nivritti and basically passed the Vedi Bhakti stage. Now they are following a devotee who is a pure devotee in Prema Bhav of Lord Krishna. So there's no Vedi Bhakti at that time. They don't need the mantras and tantras and formal process for offering something and things like that.
So Prabhuji, like the gopis of Vrindavan, like they would be considered like the Raganuga Bhaktas or the
No. They are pure bhaktas, and it's a Raganuga Bhakti will be following one of them in their footsteps. I mean, so Raganuga basically means I'm following somebody who's already in the Prema Bhakti route.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Anuga means following. Rag is basically attachment, or in this context, Prema Bhakti.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Any further questions? Okay, all right, then let me continue. So if you want to read, where did we leave off? So actually we had read a paragraph on page, let's see what page it was. I think it was page 6.
Prabhuji, but the new book, page 5, the first paragraph we read, and then from Srila Rupa Goswami, from there new.
Page 5, Prabhuji.
No,
Yeah.
so in my book, it's page 4 that says there are many results of past sinful activities. So it's page 5 for you, that's fine. As long as we're reading the same paragraph, I'm okay.
Yeah. I think the next paragraph, we completed that, but you can go ahead, Prabhuji. There are many results of past sinful activities.
I want to deliberately go back.
Okay.
So
Thank
yes,
you.
we completed it, but I would deliberately go back. Also, can I ask people who do not normally read to volunteer, please, to read? I mean, it's in front of you, so it should not be very difficult. But it'd be nice if others can participate also. So please be bold and volunteer to read. I promise I won't ask you any questions. Just read. So any bold people?
I can take one.
Okay, Nana, thank you so much. Go ahead.
Okay. Hare Krishna, everyone. Okay. Srila Rupa Goswami quotes another verse from the 3rd canto of Srimad
I'm
Bhagavatam.
sorry, Nana.
Hanji?
We're reading, there are many results of past sinful activity. It's a paragraph we read.
Okay, a previous one. Okay.
Yeah, previous one, yeah.
There are many results of past sinful activities for which we are suffering at the present moment, and we may be suffering in the future due to our present sinful activities. But all of these reactions to sinful deeds can immediately be stopped if we take to Krishna consciousness. As evidence for this, Rupa Goswami quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 14th chapter, verse 19. This verse is the connection with Lord Krishna's instruction to Uddhava, where he says, "My dear Uddhava, devotional service unto me is just like a blazing fire which can burn into ashes. Unlimited fuel supplies to it." The purport is that as a blazing fire can burn any amount of fuel to ashes, so devotional services to the Lord and Krishna consciousness can burn up the fuel of sinful activities. For example, in the Gita, Arjuna thought that fighting was a sinful activity, but Krishna engaged him on the battlefield under his order, and so the fighting became devotional service. Therefore, Arjuna was not subjected to any sinful reaction. I'm really sorry. I have little children and they're talking in the
That's
background.
perfectly all right. Perfectly all right. Yeah, I could hear you. So, okay, that's great. So basically, there are two very important points being made here. The first is, as she read, Bhakti is of the nature of a blazing fire. Just like the blazing fire burns, it talks about fuel here, but just about anything, it'll burn. Similarly, Bhakti in the mode of blazing fire destroys all sins. And once again, we'll talk in more detail a little bit later on. And you may recall a verse from the Samhita 554, which basically goes something like, "Just Indra Gopam Atva Indram Oho Sukar Bandharu Phal Bhajana Matanoti Karmani Nidahati Kintu Cha Bhakti Bhajao." That line means that the pure devotional service burns all our karmas, including the sins here that we're talking about. So that's one point. The second point is any activity, regardless of what it is, performed following the instructions of the Lord, does not result in sin. It's all bhakti. So the example that Rupa Goswami is giving here is Arjun fighting. So there were two people fighting, lots of people fighting, but two people that we will talk about, Duryodhana on one side and Arjun on this side. They were both killing. However, Arjun's killing is not incurring any sins. On the other hand, it is considered devotional service. Duryodhana, on the other hand, is doing same activity, but his activities are sinful activities, will result in sinful reactions. And it's not bhakti, it's an abominable act of killing. So same activity, sorry, this one turned the light on. Same activity, but two very different characterization and two very different results. So is that part clear? Because again, very, very important point. Same activity is devotional service if done on instruction of Krishna. And it's sinful activity if done in contradiction to instruction of Krishna. Okay, so 2 points are being made in this paragraph. Okay, now, one other point I want to make is that if we do not perform devotional service, devotional service, then we're basically inviting Yamaraj and his dutas, the servants, to our. And I want to again share the screen and put a verse, because I think it's very important and very much in the context of this discussion. So please give me a second. Yeah. Oops, sorry. Yeah. So this is from Canto 6, Chapter 3, Text 29, that's being referred to here that I was talking about. And I won't bother with the verse, but basically the translation is that, "My dear servants, please bring to me only those sinful persons who do not use their tongues to chant the holy name and the qualities of Krishna, whose hearts
don't remember.
sorry, Haribol? Whose hearts do not remember the lotus feet of Krishna even once, and whose heads do not bow down even once before Lord Krishna. And it continues, says, send me those who do not perform their duties towards Vishnu, which are the only duties in human life. Please bring me all such fools and rascals. So a person who doesn't chant the name, fame, pastimes of Krishna, who never remembers the lotus feet of Krishna, who doesn't bow down in front of Krishna, that fool and rascal is the perfect candidate to be invited to the wonderful abode of Yamaraj. So anybody who's interested in Yamaraj can do this. Never chant, never bow down to Krishna, and never remember Krishna. Okay, so this is Yamaraj speaking. Now, having said that, what's happening is, what was I saying? What's happening is that Yamaraj is basically making the point that devotional service, any one of those nine processes, is very important if we want to avoid a visit by Yamaraj or his servants, and if we want to develop, or I should say progress, on the path of devotional service. Okay. Now, if somebody wants to read the next paragraph, unless there are any questions. So again, if a new person can volunteer, I appreciate that.
Prabhuji, I have a question, Prabhuji.
Please go ahead.
I would like to say the people who are not in Krishna consciousness, so for them is no chance of going back to Godhead. What this text says here. So those people don't know who Krishna is and who the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. So there is absolutely no chance, what I would understand, Prabhuji, for them.
And your understanding is perfect. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure. Anybody else? Okay.
Prabhu, I have a question, please.
Boli.
Prabhu, those who are not the believers of Sanatan Dharma, how does this verse apply on them? I mean, like, how does this whole thing apply on them?
Yeah, well, so basically what Yamaraj is telling his servants, go to people who don't follow the edicts of Sanatan Dharma. So like the atheists or people who are against the injunctions of the Vedas or the scriptures, who are against the authority of Vishnu, Krishna, bring them over. Let me deal with them. Let me have fun with them. So anybody who's not into Sanatan Dharma is definitely candidate for Yamaraj, because basically it means that you're not doing anything in terms of devotional service, or you're only into self-gratification. And so there are results of that. And if you do sinful activities, then Yamaraj gets you. So I don't know if I answered your question, Nana.
No, Prabhu, I'm just thinking, but they guys don't even have the concept. It's never introduced to them.
Correct. That's their problem. That's because they're so unfortunate due to their past deeds that they never even got an opportunity. That is not an excuse to say, "Chalo, maaf kar do yaar, inko he doesn't know." It's like Prabhupada always says, in a court of justice, the judge never accepts the testimony that, "My dear Lord, I did not know the law." The judge says, "Well, that's your problem, not my problem. You still pay." So same thing.
Prabhuji, I have a discussion. So again, that brings to suppose they are not worshipping Krishna, but maybe Lord Shiva or Ganesha or other demigods. So will it be the same there in that case also?
No. So again, they're serving a devotee of Krishna, which is even better, according to Lord Shiva, than serving Lord Krishna. So definitely not. Also, if you're worshipping Lord Shiva in a devotional mood, then Lord Shiva is protecting you. You can go to his planet.
Okay.
Right? So there are other situations. But again, worshipping Lord Shiva is part of Sanatan Dharma. So she was talking about the entire Sanatan Dharma. A devotee of Lord Shiva is still following Sanatan Dharma. Maybe not fully, maybe not totally correctly, but he's still following.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. So let me just carry on. Okay. So somebody wants to read?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Huh?
Srila Rupa Goswami quotes another verse from the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 33rd chapter, verse 6, in which Devahuti addresses her son Kapiladev and says, "My dear Lord, there are 9 different kinds of devotional service, beginning from hearing and chanting. Anyone who hears about your pastimes, who chants about your glories, who offers you obeisances, who thinks of you and, in this way, executes any kind of the 9 kinds of devotional service. Even if he is born in a family of dog eaters, the lowest grade of mankind, becomes immediately qualified to perform sacrifices. As such, how is it possible that anyone actually engaged in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness has not become purified? It is not possible. One who is engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service has, without doubt, become freed from all contaminations of material sinful activities. Devotional service, therefore, has the power to actually nullify all kinds of reactions to sinful deeds. A devotee is nevertheless always alert not to commit any sinful activities. This is his specific qualification as a devotee. Thus, Srimad Bhagavatam states that by performing devotional service, a person who was born even in the family of dog eaters may become eligible to take part in the performance of the ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Vedas. It is implicit in this statement that the person born into the family of dog eaters is generally not fit for performing yajna or sacrifice. The priestly caste in charge of performing these ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Vedas is called the Brahmana order. Unless one is Brahmana, he cannot perform these ceremonies.
Right. So very wonderful point is being made. So as I was listening to you read this, and when I was reading it for the preparing for this class, there was another verse that actually is in the same canto spoken by Mother Devahuti, who says that a person, even though he may be a dog eater, but he's always chanting your name, my Lord, then he has already performed, or he's considered to have already performed all sorts of sacrifices and read all sorts of scriptures. And it's better than a Brahmin who does not do these activities. So that's one verse that it reminded me of. And the second verse, or the next 2 verses actually, it reminded me of was from Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 9, texts 32 and 33, Krishna makes a very important point. He says, Mam hi parth vipashita ye pishu papayonya istriyo vaishyas tatha shudro tepi yanti param gate. He says, oh Arjun, those people who take my shelter, they may be of a lower birth, but they can also attain supreme destination simply from taking my shelter. And he says, 9:33, he says, therefore, anyone who has come to this material world, which is temporary and miserable, bhajasuman, must engage in loving service unto me. So again, point being, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what family you're born in. It doesn't matter what your other profession is. If you surrender to Krishna, if you take his shelter, you chant his name, you glorify him, you remember him, you offer your obeisances to him, then he will take you to the supreme abode. What was the other verse I was just thinking about? Yeah, twice in Bhagavad Gita, he says, Manmana bhav mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskar. Right? He says, constantly think of me, fix your mind on me, become my devotee, worship me, and bow down to me. Just those 4 things. He says, I'll take it to you. In 1865, he says, what do you say? Mame vasasya asanshaya satyam te priyosime. He says, I'm telling you the truth, Arjun. Like Krishna is saying, like he doesn't lies. But he's still saying, I'm telling you the truth, Arjun, believe me. Anybody who does these 4 things, I'll take him to my abode. And that's basically the point being made by Mother Devhuti here in conversation with her son, Lord Kapil Dev. Okay, any questions on that point? All right, would somebody else like to volunteer to read the next paragraph?
Sure, Prabhu, can I do that?
Please do, yes, absolutely.
A person is born in a Brahmin family or in a family of dog eaters due to his past activities. If a person is born in a family of dog eaters, it means that his past activities were all sinful. But if even such a person takes to the path of devotional service and begins to chant the holy names of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, he is at once fit to perform the ritualistic ceremonies. This means that his sinful reactions have immediately become neutralized.
Right, that's exactly right. So, you know who is fit to perform sacrifices or ritualistic ceremonies? Brahmin, right? So he's basically saying by chanting the holy name of the Lord, anybody, even a dog eater, can become a Brahmin. So there's another verse in one of the Upanishads. It talks about comparing a Brahmin and a dog eater. It says, Shat karma nipuno, Shat karma nipuno vipro, mantra tantra visharda, avaishnavo guru nasyat, vaishnavo swapacho guru. It's saying that a Brahmin who's totally expert in the 6 activities of a Brahmin. Does anybody know what the 6 activities of Brahmin are? So it's Patan, which is study and to teach. Yajan, which perform fast sacrifices on their behalf and on somebody else's behalf. And given charity, accept charity. Those are the 6 tasks or activities of a particular Brahmin. So he's saying, even if somebody is very expert in all these 3 things, and he knows all the mantras and tantras and everything else, knows all sorts of other scriptures, if he's not a Vaishnava, he cannot be a guru. But a dog eater who's a Vaishnava, he can be a guru. So that's one point. Second point, Lord Chaitanya makes, he says, Keva Vipro Keva Nasis Shuddha Keno Noe, Jai Krishna Tattvaveta Se Guru. He's saying a person, whether he's a Brahmin, whether he's sannyasi, whether he's Shuddha, it doesn't matter. Anybody who can explain and understands the Krishna Tattva, the truth about Krishna, can be a guru. So again, the point being made is that what's important is devotional service to Krishna, not any other kind of knowledge or expertise. Okay, is that point clear?
Prabhuji, so why it is mentioned like one who chants Krishna's name, that means doing a devotional service, he can perform, he is like a Brahmana and who can perform. But that he is, as a devotee, he is higher than Brahmana. That's what we always talk, right?
So that is correct. Here, remember the Nectar of Devotion is a book about pure devotion. So certain words are used, but they have a different meaning. So when they use the word Brahmin, it means pure devotee, not the caste Brahmin.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. All right. So would somebody like to read the next paragraph? Because that's now the real interesting part is coming up. I need a volunteer.
Okay, Prabhuji, I'll read.
Please go ahead, Jamuna Prabhu.
It is stated in Padma Purana that there are 4 kinds of effects due to sinful activities, which are listed as follows. First, the effect which is not yet fructified. Second, the effect which is lying as seed. Third, the effect which is already mature. And fourth, the effect which is almost mature. It is also stated that all these 4 effects become immediately vanquished for those who surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu and become engaged in his devotional service and full Krishna conscious.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. So this is again a translation of another verse from Padma Puran. I just say it out loud. You don't have to worry about too much. This is aprarabd phalam papam bijam phalonmukam krime nev praliyate Vishnu bhakti datatmanam. Translation is basically the same as what you just read, that anybody who's a Vishnu bhakta, but datatmanam means basically really pure devotee of Krishna. Right? Slowly, all these 4 types of results of sinful activities are destroyed. And I'll get in more detail in a minute. Okay. Another way of seeing this paragraph that you just read, Jagannath, if you go back to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, texts 10 and 11, what do they say? Basically, Sanatan Dharma, right? Basically saying that by practicing Bhakti Yoga, a devotee becomes free from ignorance or avidya. How does that happen? Dadami buddhi yogam tam, Krishna is saying. Tesham satat yuktana bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamapi antate. So that's basically what's happening here. Krishna says, I'll give you the intelligence, I'll take away your avidya. Remember, if you from last class, we said avidya is the origin or cause of the seeds of sinful activities. And the seeds result into action of sinful actions. Okay. So once avidya is removed by Krishna, he's saying dadami buddhi yogam tam, then all the material desires are spiritualized. Which basically means purified, because the anarthas are removed by Krishna's mercy. Once the anarthas are removed, the desire to serve Krishna for Krishna's pleasure manifests. So now see, the desire has been purified. The desire to serve me for my pleasure is gone and replaced by desire to serve Krishna for Krishna's pleasure. Okay. Now I want to make sure you understand. Hare Krishna, please mute yourself if you're not talking to me. Just keep yourself on mute, please. Okay. So just to make sure that we're not confusing anybody, Bhakti doesn't remove desires. Actually, desires cannot be removed. But it does something very interesting. What it does is it crowds out the material desires by filling our mind with pure desires. See what I'm saying? So for example, a bottle is full of something, you start putting, other things in it, it'll push out. If there's a hole at the bottom, it push out what was there, and the new things will replace it. And that's what we're talking about. So now the material desires have been pushed out by the pure desires. So by Bhakti Yoga, you're not emptying your mind, but you're filling it with pure desires, which pushes out the impure desires. Right? So when you fill the mind with Krishna, automatically all the avidya, the ignorance or material desires go away. Is that point clear? Because that's a key point that we'll need to understand what we're going to talk about in the next few minutes. Any questions?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. All right.
I have a doubt.
Please go ahead.
This verse is very, it's very lofty in a sense, because it is saying all these 4 effects, prarabdha, bija, kuta, they are immediately vanquished. But then there is a condition, that condition is surrender. So if I understand well, it is for some devotee who is already at pure stage of devotional service, it happens only for that. Okay. But for others like me who are on the beginning stages, this won't happen, right?
Well, no. So basically they're saying if you're pure devotee, is completely dedicated.
Right. So to degree we are pure, to that degree the sins are eradicated.
Yes, that's it. That's the point. The principle continues to apply.
And then the second point you mentioned about those 2 famous verses from chapter 10, 10.10 and 11, the Dadami Buddhi Yogam, and the next one, Tesha Meva Anukamparthama.
Correct.
So that Krishna gives, that knowledge Krishna gives, how Krishna gives. Iti says that it gives within the heart. But for our stage, the knowledge will come by reading and by hearing.
So remember, even that is provided by Krishna. But he can also depending upon our state for devotion service. He can also give directly in our heart. He can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's just that the more advanced we are, the more the communication happens.
Right. So if communication not happening means we need to work hard.
That's right. Because see what happens is when we have this too much chatter going on, the real signal doesn't come. That's why sometimes on the cell phone, you can't hear the other person. There's too much other noises.
Yeah.
In a classroom, same thing. You don't hear the teacher when the other people are talking. Right? So it's same thing. It's same thing. Exactly the same thing.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Prabhuji,
Huh.
I have a point here.
Boliye.
Prabhu was saying, sorry, I forgot even the question now. I think you go ahead, Prabhuji. When I remember, I'll talk to you.
Okay, no worries, no worries, no worries. Okay, so somebody wants to read the next paragraph? Again, if a new person can volunteer, that would be nice.
Can I read, Prabhu?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Those effects described as almost mature refer to the distress from which one is suffering at present, and the effects lying as seed are in the core of the heart, where there is a certain stock of sinful desires, which are like seeds. The Sanskrit word Kutum means that they are almost ready to produce the seed or the effect of the seed.
Yeah, just 1 second. Let's make sure everybody pays attention to this particular line. Mataji, would you like to repeat that line? The Sanskrit word.
The Sanskrit word Kutum means that they are almost ready to produce the seed or the effect of the seed.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead. Continue.
An immature effect refers to the case where the seedling has not begun. From this statement of Padma Purana, it is understood that material contamination is very subtle. Its beginning, its
fruition.
Okay, and results, and how one suffers such results in the form of distress are part of the great chain. When one catches some disease, it is often very difficult to ascertain the cause of the disease, where it originated and how it is maturing. The suffering of the disease, however, does not appear all of a sudden. It actually takes time. And as in the medical field, for precaution's sake, the doctor injects a vaccination to prevent the growing of the contamination, the practical injection to stop all the fructifications of the seed of the sinful activities is simply engagement in Krishna consciousness.
Very nice. Thank you. So one of the sentences she read was that the suffering of the disease, however, does not appear all of a sudden. So I want to give an example of that, maybe a couple of examples of that. For example, somebody goes to different countries, tropical countries, and comes back to Canada, and then 2 weeks later gets malaria. Now we know malaria can be caught only by a mosquito bite. But now this person or his doctor has no idea which country, which mosquito, when bit this person. But we know for sure that a mosquito somewhere bit this person. But we don't know when and where. So that's one point in this regard that paragraph that she just read. Another point is, this again, Padma Puran, it explains that those people who are engaged in fruitive activities, everybody knows fruitive activities, like karmi activities, are entangled in different stages and forms of sinful reaction. The 4 stages that we'll describe in a few minutes, we'll describe that, I promise you. For instance, when a seed of a particular tree is sown, the tree appears tomorrow, right? So you sow the seed today, tree appears tomorrow, right?
No,
Right?
Prabhuji.
Huh?
No, Prabhuji.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't appear immediately, right? It takes some time. First, it's a small sprouting plant, then it assumes the form of a tree, then the flowers come out, and you know, if the fruits come out, you know, and when it's completely mature, then the fruits and the flowers of the tree are enjoyed by people who sowed the seed, and maybe some other people too. But that's when we get the seed. Sorry, the result of the seed. Is that point clear? It takes time between sowing the seed and getting the fruit, enjoying the fruit. Correct? It's not zero time, it's some time. Depending upon the tree, it could be, you know, few weeks, few months, few years, depending upon the tree. But there's always some time lapse between sowing the seed and getting the fruits. Does everyone agree with that?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Perfectly.
Okay. So similarly, when a man performs a sinful act, just like a seed and the fruit, it takes some time to fructify. We don't get the result right away. There are different stages. Again, we'll talk about that, the 4 stages. So another thing is that the sinful action may have already stopped within an individual, but the results or the fruit of that sinful action are still to be enjoyed. Right? So maybe in this birth, somebody's not performing any sinful activities, but they're suffering like anything. And people say, why me? I'm such a nice person. I'm only doing good things. I'm always helping other people. I'm always chanting. Why is this happening to me? It's not happening because anything you did this birth. It's the time lag between when you did it and when you're enjoying it. So maybe 50 births ago, you know, you did something and now you get to the result. Dhritarashtra, whom we all know, maybe not love, but we all know, he did something 100 births before. Because of his 100 sons died in this birth. 100 births before. It could be million births before. We don't know. But we know it happened somewhere. So similarly, there are sins that are still in the form of a seed, or some that are fructified and giving us the fruit, because of which we're enjoying the pain and, you know, or enjoying the distress, if that's the word you want to use. So now let me share the screen and let me answer the question that was asked of me about 15 minutes ago, and also answer I'm sure there's a lot of questions coming up as a result of what we have just read. So allow me to share the screen again. And why is it not moving? There you go. Okay. So this screen talks about 4 stages of karma. And let me get my beautiful drawing thing. So now let's start from here actually. It says Papa Punya. These are our activities that we are performing in this birth. Okay, it could be sinful activities or it could be pious activities. So Pap Punya, Pap means sinful, Punya means pious. So you're performing this. The result of those activities is going here, which is aprarabdha. So remember I was talking about the bucket, a big bucket where karmas are being accumulated. We get the example of water in the bucket or M&Ms in the bucket. Everybody remembers that?
Yes, Prabhuji.
That is the bucket. This is the bucket. Okay. It's not 100% accurate. I'll tell you why, but think of this as the bucket. So this is where all the sinful reactions are being accumulated. It's called aprarabdha. Now, remember I talked about the lota. Krishna puts his hand, takes few M&Ms out or some water out to the spout and puts it in lota. This is your lota. There's a prarabdha, which is your destiny in this life. And that's what you either enjoy or you suffer. Now, is that part clear? Please, somebody said no, yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, so that's clear. All right.
Yes, Prabhu.
Now, the reason I said this is not totally accurate, actually the bucket contains these also. And I'll explain that. So now, sorry? Okay.
No.
So now we all have read the verse, chapter 3, text 27. Say, Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha. Does anybody know that verse? Basically says, we are forced to act according to our modes of material nature. Right? Everybody remembers that, or at least some of you?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So we are forced to act according to our modes of material nature. So how does that work? So according to our modes of material nature that we're going to get in this life, some of these aprarabdha start to the process of fructifying. So some of them get to a stage. The second stage is called Kutum. And that's why I had asked Mother to repeat the sentence. Who remembers what does Kutum mean?
It
Okay.
is
Almost ready to produce.
it is the activity just about to mature.
Yes, not to mature, to come in the form of seed.
Okay.
Okay. So Kutum is those reactions that are about to become seed, bijam. Now, so what does that mean? So Kutum refers to our proclivities, our inclinations. So we all have different inclinations. Some are very kind, some are very cruel. Some are into devotional service, some are into self gratification, some are into sports, some are into movies, some are into singing, some just talking, somebody says, whatever. Everybody has different proclivity, different inclination. Do you agree? That is Kutum. Now, the proclivity or the inclination results in desires. So Kutum turns into desires. Okay? Is that part clear? It's the avidya, the ignorance, that turns these desires into sinful desires. When avidya is replaced by vidya, knowledge, then the seeds become spiritual desires that we just talked about. So is that part clear? Again, I'm trying to go as slow as possible, but if it's not clear or doing too fast, stop me and ask me a question.
Prabhuji, I'll try to rephrase.
Okay.
So, got up to Kutum, and that means this proclivity, and that proclivity gives rise to a bijam. That means that is you're ready to do some activity.
You're desiring. So just think in terms of, forget these words, think in terms of real life. Whatever your inclinations are, that's the kind of desires you get.
Correct.
So it's just being put in the picture form.
Yeah. So Prabhuji, those desires are there. Then are you saying that avidya, the desires are there based on the vidya or avidya, he performs? Is that implying or?
No, what is implying is that avidya causes these desires to be sinful desires.
Okay.
Vidya, the knowledge, causes these desires to be purified. Which is what we just read also, that Krishna purifies. Tesham ev ankampartam aham jnanam tama. Right? Or Tesham satatyuktanam bhajatam pritpurvak dadami buddhi yogam tam. So that's what I'm talking about. Krishna is purifying, devotional service purifying these desires. So that's the significance of this word. Avidya will make it sinful, Vidya will make it pure.
Prabhuji, can I ask something or make some comments?
Please do, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, now I would like to say here, what is the definition of papam? I would say the definition of papam is I would say in Vaishnava philosophy, what is not done for the service of the Lord is all papam, Prabhuji.
So basically, you're right. But the technical definition as given by Vishnu Dutas to Yamadutas in the 6th canto, in the Ajamili story, is that any activity in contradiction to the injunctions of the scriptures is sinful activity or pap.
Yeah.
And
Right.
any activity in consistency with or consistent with scriptural injunctions is punya.
Yeah, there's the one shlok too, Prabhuji. Yeah, Shastra Vidyam Utsarja Vartate Kam Karam Nasa Siddhyam Apapanoti Na Sukham Na Parmam Gatam.
Yeah, the 1623, yes. So basically Krishna is saying, don't ignore the Shastras. Because next verse, if you recall, says, Tasmat Shastra Pramanante, Kari Akara Vyastito. Right? So he's saying, do what the scriptures say. In other words, don't do pap, do punya. Okay?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure. So then we know that desires result into actions, right? In real life, forget the diagram. In real life, our desires turn into actions, right? So depending upon whether the bijam, the desires, is sinful or pious, you get pap or punya. And if they are pure, really pure, like in the spiritual sense, then you get devotional activity. Right? So you have pap, punya, devotional, which is karma, akarma, vikarma. That's what, again, is back down to that 3rd chapter again. What's karma? Anybody tell me what's karma?
He's
That
following the scriptural, whatever
Correct.
you are following
Yes.
the scripture.
Correct. What's akarma?
That's not following the
No, that's
scripture.
vikarma.
Or it's inaction.
Karma, vikarma is consistent with or opposition to. What's akarma?
Actions done in Krishna consciousness.
Correct, exactly.
Yes.
So those are the 3 things. So go back to desire. Desire is purified in terms of, say, spiritual desire, you do devotional service. Desire is sinful, you do pap. Desire is pious, you do punya. That's what's happening. So being controlled by modes of material nature or devotional service that's above material nature. So that's how you get here. Okay. Now, if you do papa punya, results always go here, as I was saying. So you're back to square one. Now I want you to take a look at this, see what part is not clear, because everything we read today so far is summarized in this diagram.
Prabhuji, okay, so as I understand, so this cycle will work for any new desires. This cycle will work for any new desires like a bijam.
So desires, basically, don't go with desire, go with action. For any action, this is working, but the action is happening because of the desire. So go that way.
Okay.
Desire is causing the action.
Desire causing action, yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Yeah. So my question comes that where we say that when one takes to devotional service, everything is burnt out. So in this cycle,
sorry, so Prabhu, don't jump. I haven't got there yet.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
I haven't gone there yet. I just want to make sure this diagram is clear what's happening here.
So, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
So, I may be wrong. I may be incorrectly reading this, but what I see is the cause of this cycle is avidya. Is that true?
Yeah. So probably if you go to the sinful desires, the cause of this avidya, correct. This is how we started last class. Avidya is causing all this.
Okay.
There's a diagram with 3 squares, avidya on the top, Bijam, sinful desires, and Pap, the activities in that diagram. I don't know if you remember that. So yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Okay, I did not attend the last class, so that's why I'm missing
Okay,
this.
okay. All right.
Got it. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure, no worries. Anybody else? I mean, if you can understand this diagram, you understand theory of karma completely.
So, Prabhuji,
Huh.
for the case of Vidya.
Avidya or Vidya?
No, Vidya.
Okay, Vidya, go ahead.
So in the case of Vidya, like this Bijam, Kutam, Aprarabdha, they will not be there, right?
Okay, so if you're going there, then wait for a minute. That was basically what Rahul asked, and I'm going to explain that.
Okay, Prabhuji.
I'm just going to explain the whole diagram with that perspective.
Yes, because
yeah, sure. Just give me a couple of minutes. So make sure everybody else is clear, and then I'll start answering your question.
Sure, Prabhuji.
Prabhu, is our Kutam the same as Vasanas?
Yes, you can say that. That's the proclivity, the inclinations, that's the Vasana, yes.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you.
Sure. Once again, I'm requesting everyone to please keep yourself on mute unless you have a question to ask. All right, so now let's go back.
Prabhu, now I remember that question.
Okay, go ahead.
Jam Noor was asking that the knowledge comes from within by reading books and Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. We gain knowledge.
There's one way, one method, yes.
But this knowledge, this what we read, this is also with the mercy of Lord Krishna.
Yeah, that's what we were saying. That even that is coming from Krishna.
Yeah, that
Correct.
knowledge also coming from Krishna.
Correct. Okay, thank you. All right, so let's go to the questions that were asked just now. Now let's talk about devotional service. So what's happening? Because we read that devotional service destroys everything. So devotional service will destroy your prarabdha karmas, destroy your aprarabdha karmas. It'll destroy any proclivities for non-devotional activities. It'll destroy any seeds of material desires. And therefore, it will destroy all activities. It doesn't destroy the activities, but purifies the activities. So let's look at it this way. And this is what we just talked about 10 minutes ago. Devotional service will purify the desire by crowding out the impure desires. Remember we were saying that? So now once that crowding out has happened, all your pure spiritual desires left, then what will be the activity? Devotional activity, which results in no karmas. So there's nothing going here. Right? So now, let's put it this way. This whole thing has been destroyed by devotional service and replaced by pure desires with devotional activities, which result in nothing here. Now, is that clear? I know too many diagrams here, I mean, too many lines here, but basically everything is destroyed in the sense of desires being purified, and therefore activities are only devotional activities and everything else is gone. Now, there's another kind of vidya, it's called Gyan. Gyan will destroy everything except prarabdha. Whereas devotional service will destroy even that. So is that clear? Because I'm going to go to another concept. Before I do that, I want to make sure that part is clear.
So Prabhuji, you are talking about Gyan, that means speculative knowledge. Are you going there?
Yes.
So I'm not able to understand.
No, I'm saying that will remember avidya and vidya. So that is vidya, right? It's not devotional service.
Okay.
So it'll destroy all of this, but your prarabdha is still there. Whereas devotional service will destroy everything and purify this. Remember, jnanis are talking about cessation of activities. So there's no activity by cessation.
Yes.
Here, there's no cessation of activities. It's purifying of the, purification of the activities. And that's the difference. And that's why Gyan is so difficult, because how do you see his activities? How do you see his desires? Very, very difficult.
So for Gyanis, that prarabdha goes away, but aprarabdha remains, or it's the other way?
The other way. Aprarabdha goes away, prarabdha remains, and that's why at the end of the life, they can merge in the Brahmani Faljas.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, let's talk about one other term. It's called praschit. It's going to come later on, but let me talk about one of the diagram here. Now, what happens when you do praschit? Praschit is for atonement, basically. It's for one particular sinful activity you have done. Right? So you did something, some activity, pap activity here, and you get a prarabdha result. If you do praschit for that, basically what happens is that for that particular activity, where is it? This is cancelled. This arrow is gone. And that result is taken out of a prarabdha and basically destroyed. Is that part clear? Yes, Jamana Prabhu.
So the atonement can be like, even if someone is repentant just from the heart, or it has to be like prescribed atonement method per the scripture?
It's prescribed atonement. Okay.
So if someone does not know that prescribed, then even if he's
I mean, basically it needs to be prescribed. Yeah, just saying sorry is not enough.
Yeah.
Okay, but now there's something else. The atonement will take away this particular reaction, no question, but doesn't do anything. Where did it go? Doesn't do anything for Kutum or Bijam. In other words, your proclivities for sinful activities and your desires for sinful activities remain. So praschit doesn't take it away. Is that confusing?
I think that's same thing like Parikshit Maharaj when he's asking.
Actually, yeah, I was just going to go there.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's exactly what happened. I think there is a paragraph here that talks about that.
Prabhuji, could you please repeat what you just said last?
What I said was that the praschit or atonement does not remove the tendency, the proclivity, or the desire to perform the same sinful activity. So Prabhupada used to give an example he repeated many, many times. He said in the Christian religion, the process of atonement is that on Sunday, you go to the church for a confession and you confess to the Father, which is a priest, Father, I have sinned, and discuss your sin. And that's the atonement. However, on Monday, you repeat the same sinful activity because the desire or the proclivity is not gone. On the other hand, with devotional service, even the desire and proclivity is gone. So the example is given of a forest where there's a big fire. So they have this grass and other creepers on the ground. They're all burnt. Even the trees are burnt. But the next rainy season, everything comes back up. Why? Because the roots remained. The roots remain. So next rainy season, as soon as you got an opportune time or opportunity, it comes back up. Right? So for example, somebody is an alcoholic. And he says, I swear I'll give it up, joins Alcoholic Anonymous and all sorts of things. And for 10 months, 12 months, he is not drinking. But one day they have a birthday party, all his old friends show up, everybody with a bottle in the hand, and say, pile, yaar, pile, just take a small one, just take a small one. And after resisting for half an hour, he says, Acha, theek hai, okay. And then as soon as he takes the first one, the old habit is back. Because the proclivity, the desire didn't go away. On the other hand, in the 6th canto, Sorry, somebody asked a question?
Prabhuji, sorry to interrupt you. I'm just trying to make my understanding clear.
Huh?
Is it similar to what Srila Prabhupada calls as Falgu Vairagya, that desire is still there, but artificially?
No, Falgu Vairagya is something different.
Okay.
It's a little bit different. It talks about, if you remember the verse from the book, it talks about Prapachiktiya Buddhya Har Sambandhi Vastu. It talks about even considering things that are for the use of Lord Krishna, saying,
Okay.
"Oh, the material, reject that." That's different.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's like I was once giving the flower that was offered to the Lord for all the people in the temple to smell. And one girl said, "No, that's sanctification. I will not take that." That is Falgu Vairagya. I'm not talking about that here.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Prabhu, I have a question, Prabhu.
Haan, boliye.
You know, this prayashchittam you were talking about, how is it different from what is this pariharam? You know, when they say that if you have this Shani Dasa, you go and light sesame seed lamp to Shani. What have you heard of that, Prabhu?
No, Mother, I don't know. I know what pariharam is, but what you're describing is, I think, something called Grashanti. Is that what it is?
What is this and what is that like?
I don't know pariharam.
Like, you
I
know,
have no
they
idea.
say that if somebody doesn't get married in that family, they will say, "Oh, you have Kala Sarpa dosha, go do some pariharam at Kalahasti and come." You know, like that and all they'll say. No, what is the difference between this prayashchittam and pariharam, Prabhu?
So again, I don't know what pariharam is, so I can't really comment. But what I can say is that from what you're describing, you're talking about doing some puja and things like that to get rid of some fault, dosh. That's something totally different. Here we're talking about something you did, and you did in this life, as opposed to something you may have done in a previous life because of which you have dosh, because of the alignment of the planets or whatever. So again, I don't understand parihar fully, but that's what I'm guessing.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Got it.
Okay. All right. So another verse that in the same context, I'm sorry, let me just go back a little bit. So somebody had mentioned Parikshit Maharaj. So yes, when Shukdev Goswami started talking about Prashchit, Parikshit Maharaj objected. He said, "Look, I'm a king. I see this all the time, that people do sinful activities, they get caught, they throw in jail, but as soon as they go out, they repeat the same thing." And he said, "Therefore, my Lord," he's talking to Shukdev Goswami, "that atonement that you're talking about is like the bathing of an elephant. He goes in the river, bathes very nicely, cleans his body very nicely, comes out, and then rolls in the sand again. Gets dirty all over again. This prashchit is like that. Yeah, you atoned it, but go ahead and do it again. So therefore, this is no good. So give me the real cure." And then Shukdev Goswami has a wonderful verse that everybody should memorize. It says, "Kechit kevalya bhaktya vasudeva parayana dhanvanti agham karsnena niharami bhaskara." It says that very few people get that pure devotional service, that they become Vasudeva Parayan, totally dependent upon knowing nothing but Lord Vasudeva, Lord Krishna. For them, the sins are destroyed from the root. So not just what's above the ground, but also what's below the ground. Just like the appearance of the sun destroys the fog in the atmosphere. There's no fog left. So similarly, when we perform devotional service, not only what we see is the prarabdha, but also all the prarabdha, including Kutum and Bijam, is destroyed. In the sense of Bijam being purified, their desires are purified, and therefore we perform only devotional service. No pap, no punya. Even punya is pap. There's a comment somebody had made earlier, that any activity against which is not consistent with devotional service is pap, and that's correct. So even pious activities are pap, because they take you away from Krishna. Okay, actually, that's one of the purposes of the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada says that. Okay, now tell me who's confused.
No, just one question based on the last statement. आपने जो कहा कि ना पाप और like पुण्य में ज़्यादा difference नहीं है. So, but that is true only like when you are thinking in terms of devotional platform. For someone who's struggling to come to that platform, he is actually promote like he is क्या बोलते हैं उसको basically मतलब बोला जाता है कि आप at least पुण्य तो करो ताकि उसके बाद maybe it doesn't make much of a difference. It's
Yes,
it's the material.
yes, that is correct. Absolutely correct. As a matter of fact, that's the reason why the Vedas start with karma kanda. The idea being you are doing sinful activities, at least stop that. You get the same results by doing these punya activities, at least do that. So yes, that's exactly the idea. But for devotees, even punya is pap because it takes you away from Krishna. For general public, no, we don't tell them this. Okay, so I'm looking at all these exalted devotees in front of me and it's like, hey, you should know this. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing the screen and see if there are actually other questions before we move on.
So Prabhuji, on this Pap and Punya, I was listening one of the lecture in which one of the senior devotee was saying that for devotees, Pap, we can say like Pap samne se marta hai. It kills you from front, and Punya is something which stabs you from the back. Is that dangerous?
Good way to do that. Yes, good way. Because Punya can be very attractive.
Yes.
Right? And but it takes you away from Krishna. That's what happens to demigods, right? They do a lot of punyas and they become demigods. Then they forget Krishna, except when they are in trouble. Well, all they want is enjoy, right? So yeah. I also remember what Krishna says in chapter 2, Bhagavad Gita, text 44. Bhogashwar prasaktanam taya pratyetsam vyavsayatmaka buddhi samadhana vidhiyate. If you're enjoying your opulence so much, which you get from punyas, then you cannot do bhakti.
Right.
Mother Kunti says the same thing in prayers by Kunti, that those who are very rich cannot develop feelings for Krishna. Even with a chant, they cannot do that with feeling. Tom Akinchan Gojra, only when you think nothing is there for you to possess, then you can develop feelings. And that's the point.
Thanks.
Prabhu, what's the shloka number for that Vasudeva Parayana, which you said you have memorized?
That's, I think, Canto 6, Chapter 2, Text 16. I'm not 100% sure, but quite sure.
What's the starting, Prabhu? I can Google it.
Kechit Kevaliya Bhaktya.
Okay, thank you.
Kechit.
6.1.15.
Sorry, Prabhu?
6.1 point?
1.15.
Oh, okay, so I was off by one.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
I have a question, Prabhuji.
Ha, boli.
Actually, what you showed is really nice. Like I'm talking again, avidya and vidya.
Mm-hmm.
The jnana, you can destroy almost everything except the, I think, aprarabdha, right?
No, prarabdha.
Except the prarabdha, yes. Because which is coming that you cannot stop with jnana. But my question is, like for us, like a practicing devotees now, I don't think so. I am at the stage of a jnani where I have all the jnana and then this is stopped. And even if here we takes about bhakti, it is talking about pure bhakti. Even I don't have that. So in my case, I have to still go through, I mean, the aprarabdha, kutam and bijam to an extent.
Well, I mean, you are pure devotee, so you are fine. But other cases like myself, the answer is yes.
I am not.
The answer is yes.
Yes, so we have to, because our situation is not very like, na idhar ke abhi tak puri tarah fix hue na udhar hue.
That's true. That's why we are Vaidhi Bhakti. That's why we are sadhakas. Sadhaka translated means practitioner. We are practicing to become a devotee.
Because there was one devotee, like when we will discuss sometime like this, he say, "Aisa na ho, na mile maya, na mile mukti."
Well, that was Arjuna asked the same question, right? Arjuna asked exactly the same question to Krishna. And that's when Krishna said, no, it's never destroyed. Whatever you get is never destroyed. And then talks about chapter 6, Prapapudukritam Lokan Ushitva Shasti Sama. It talks about all that.
Yeah.
The same question that Arjuna asked.
Right. Because the problem is the confusion comes, we are practicing devotional service And then we think we are immune to these all these reactions, four level reactions of karma. But
well,
actually,
to be honest with you, Prabhu, to be very blunt, we do a little bit of service and we think we become pure, and we are not. I mean, that's the blunt answer. And we should be very cautious about knowing where we are.
Yes.
You know, when we start exaggerating in our own mind, we get into so much trouble.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes.
Sure.
Thanks for clarification.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I honestly hope I did not confuse too much anybody. Okay. But like the book, to be honest with you, is more confusing than what I was trying to make by the diagram. Let's see if there's anything I should point out. Oh yeah, so there's one other point that I forgot to make, and that is, even though we're saying the pure devotees destroy everything, but they still sometimes are seen to suffer. There's so many examples, whether Srila Prabhupada, there's Prahlad Maharaj, or so many other devotees, Kunti, Pandavas, they suffered a lot. So the question you can ask is, well, wait a minute, Rupanuga, you're fooling us here. On the one hand, you're saying it's all destroyed, and we know of so many examples where they suffered. So what's going on? And the answer is that for pure devotees, there are various other reasons, but karma is not one of them. Okay? Their happiness and distress actually given by Lord Krishna for a number of reasons. It's not a karmic reaction. And what's the difference? Karmic reaction always leaves a residue even after you enjoyed or suffered. Whereas caused by Krishna leaves no residue. So what's done is done, you finished. For example, our karmic reaction may win us $50 million, Lotto Max. But we're not done. When we got the 50 million, we're not done. Now we're going to do something with it, either pious or impious, and we suffer the results of that. On the other hand, if Krishna gave us this $50 million, we'll automatically end up using it in, I don't know, construction of temples or other ways of spreading Krishna consciousness, on and on, not on ourselves. And again, we have proof in front of us. Srila Prabhupada must have accumulated equivalent in today's dollars more than $50 million, but not a penny for himself. And therefore, it's all Krishna conscious activities, even though he got the money, no residue. Okay, so I hope that point is clear. Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, Yassaham anugrahanami, harishe tad dhanam sunai, tato adhanam tyajanti asya swajana dukh dukkita. The person I do special mercy on, I take away everything, all the opulence. As a result, his friends, his relatives leave him, and he becomes so unhappy, so distressed, he comes to me. That's my special mercy. But we know that that's not what he did with Dhruva Maharaj. That's not what he did with Prahlad Maharaj. So what's the difference? And honestly, most of us hope that he doesn't do that to us. I mean, we all talk about becoming a devotee. We all want to talk about wanting to become pure devotee. But if somebody says, okay, fine, Krishna is going to come and take everything away, are you ready? I think most of us, maybe not all of us, but most of us say, nahi bhai, abhi nahi, I'm not ready. Right? So Krishna knows that. He knows our heart. So he knows who is deserving of this special mercy, who's not. Also, if he feels that a person can handle the opulence, he will not take it away. Prahlad was an example. Dhruva Maharaj was actually saying, no, I don't want it. And Lord Krishna said, no, you got to take it. So not taking it away, but instead giving it, because you can handle it, you become an example for the other people. Similarly, one reason for giving distress to pure devotees is that they can become example to other people like us. So we hear about Prahlad Maharaj, what he suffered or what he did not suffer, but he never gave up his faith in Krishna. That's a lesson for us. No matter what happens, don't give up your faith. Lesson from Pandavas. No matter what happens, don't give up your faith. Don't give up your dependence upon Krishna. Because when you do that, Krishna will take care of you eventually. So, a lesson for us. Okay. Let's move to the next paragraph, unless there are any other questions, where he talks about the destruction of the seed of sins, which I already discussed in the chapter, but just to reconfirm, we'll read from the book also. Okay. If there are no questions, somebody please volunteer to read the next paragraph, which says, again, in my book, page 6, in this connection, Shukadeva Goswami speaks.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Please go ahead.
In this connection, Shukadeva Goswami speaks in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter, verse 17, about the story of Ajamal, who began life as a fine and dutiful Brahmana, but in his young manhood became wholly corrupted by prostitute. At the end of his wicked life, just by calling the name Narayan, bracket Krishna, he was saved despite so much sin. Shukdev points out that austerity, charity, and the performance of ritualistic ceremonies for counteracting sinful activities are recommended process, but that by performing them, one cannot remove the sinful desired seed from the heart, as was the case with Ajamal in his youth. This sinful desire seed can be removed only by achieving Krishna consciousness, and this can be accomplished very easily by chanting the Mahamantra or Hare Krishna mantra as recommended by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In other words, unless one adopts the path of devotional service, he cannot be 100% clean from all the reactions of sinful activities.
Yeah. So this is what we discussed before. I just want to add that this verse that they're referring to in this paragraph basically says that austerity, charity, vows, and other such methods may neutralize the reactions of sinful life, but they do not uproot the material desires in one's heart. However, if one serves the lotus feet of the Lord, then immediately everything is gone. All contamination is gone. Again, repeat of what we already discussed. Right? So next paragraph basically makes the same point. If you want to read, somebody wants to volunteer.
Should I read, Prabhuji?
Sure.
By performing Vedic ritualistic activities, by giving money in charity, and by undergoing austerity, one cannot temporarily become free from the reactions of sinful activities. But at the next moment, he must again become engaged in sinful activities. For example, a person suffering from venereal disease on account of excessive indulgence in sex, life has to undergo some severe pain in medical treatment, and he is then cured by the time being. But because he has not been able to remove the sex desire from his heart, he must again indulge in the same thing and become a victim of the same disease. So medical treatment may give him temporary relief from the distress of such venereal disease. But unless one is trained to understand that sex life is abominable, it is impossible to be saved from such a repeated distress. Similarly, the ritualistic performances, charity and austerity, which are recommended in the Vedas, may temporarily stop one from acting in sinful ways. But as long as the heart is not clear, one will have to repeat sinful activities again and again.
Right. So once again, it's repeating what we already discussed in that diagram. And I just want to make the point again that pious activities may stop you from doing sinful activities for a little while, but as soon as the environment is right, you'll do it again. And we give the example of the Alcoholic Anonymous. Friends come over and you drinking again. Next paragraph further elaborates the same point. So somebody wants to read that? Again, somebody who's not. Please go
I
ahead.
can read it, Prabhuji.
Let her go, Prabhu. Let her go first.
Okay,
Go ahead,
go
Mataji.
ahead.
Another example given in Srimad Bhagavatam concerned the elephant who enters into the lake and takes a bath very seriously, cleansing his body thoroughly. Then, as soon as he come onto the shore, he again takes some dust from the earth and throws it over his body. Similarly, a person who is not trained in Krishna consciousness cannot become completely free from the desire for sinful activities. Neither the yoga process, nor philosophical speculation, nor fruitive activities can save one from the seed of sinful desire. Only one being engaged in devotional service can this be done.
Yeah. So again, we discussed this in that diagram. We took actually the same example we took. So hopefully this part is clear. Okay, next paragraph.
Okay, Prabhuji, I can read it now.
Sure, Prabhuji, of course.
There is another evidence in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 22nd chapter, verse 39, wherein Sant Kumar says that, my dear king, the false ego of the human being is so strong that it keeps him in the material existence as if tied up by a strong rope. Only the devotee can cut off the knot of the strong rope very easily by engaging themselves in Krishna consciousness. Others who are not in Krishna consciousness but are trying to become great mystic or great ritual performers cannot advance like the devotee. Therefore, it is a duty of everyone to engage himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness in order to be freed from the tight knots of false ego and engagement in material activities.
Right. So again, the point being made is that we all have false ego. False ego basically means we identify with our body, which means all our activities become for sense gratification. And only thing that can destroy false ego is the devotional service. No charity, nothing. Actually, charity sometimes can increase the false ego. And so only Krishna consciousness of pure devotional service can cut the knot of false ego. And once false ego is gone, then all the desire for material engagement or material desires disappear. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Next paragraph.
I will.
Please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I will read. This tight knot of false ego is due to ignorance. As long as one is ignorant about his identification, he is sure to act wrongly and thereby become entangled in material contamination. This ignorance of factual knowledge can also be dissipated by Krishna consciousness, as is confirmed in the Padma Purana as follows. Pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the highest enlightenment, and when such enlightenment is there, it is just like a blazing forest fire, killing all the inauspicious snakes of desire. The example is being given in this connection that when there is a forest fire, the extensive blazing automatically kills all the snakes in the forest. There are many, many snakes on the ground of the forest, and when a fire takes place, it burns the dried foliage and the snakes are immediately attacked. Animals who have 4 legs can flee from the fire or can at least try to flee, but the snakes are immediately killed. Similarly, the blazing fire of Krishna consciousness is so strong that the snakes of ignorance are immediately killed.
Right. So again, we are taking the same thing. Krishna consciousness destroys avidya. Vidya, same thing here, saying the snakes of ignorance are killed by Krishna consciousness. So that's one point. So basically, if I can summarize, what we're saying is that through the process of pure devotional service, all the kleshas, all the distresses are totally uprooted. And as a matter of fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in one of his books, Bhakti Tattva Vivek, he says, pure devotional service destroys both types of sins, prarabdha and aprarabdha. Whereas jnana describes only the aprarabdha. So this is what we talked about before. Okay. Now, one thing I want to make sure that's very clear, and has something to do with, also I should say similar to the 7th offense against the holy name. Anybody knows what 7th is? Namna balat yascha papa buddhi. Means we should not be executing sinful activities on the strength of devotional service. Ki, theek hai, let's do some pop and we'll chant extra round. Let's do some pop and we'll go visit Vrindavan. Let's do some pop and we'll do arti, in the temple. No, you cannot do that. One cannot, or you should never engage in sinful activities on the strength of devotional service. Those who do that thinking they'll cleanse their sins by the performance of devotional service, like chanting at the name of the God or arti and things like that, they are doing offenses against the devotional service itself, just like the holy name. As a result, all their sins, instead of being destroyed, actually increase multifold. And then these people are forced to suffer from these offenses. Okay, so that, again, like I said, just like the seventh offense against the holy name, same point I wanted to make, that don't think that because we heard today that devotional service will destroy all the sinful reactions. It's a license for us to go ahead and do it. And now we know the formula, we go and chant extra rounds or do extra service at the temple and we are okay. No, we're not. Actually, the offenses increase many, many million folds if we do it on the strength of devotional service. Okay, so it's 9:36. I'm going to stop and wait for any questions we have.
One comment.
Huh.
Actually, on the 7th page, there is this reference for 4th canto, Bhagavatam, 22nd chapter, verse 39.
Huh.
When I go to that particular verse, it's not the same verse, what is said here. So it looks like this reference is not right.
Oh, okay. I didn't check that too.
I was trying to find that verse, but could not, like the one related to the false ego.
Okay, I'll find out.
Yes,
yeah. That's very surprising. So you went 4:22:39, right?
Yeah, or maybe what I'm looking is.
Okay, I to be honest with you, I did not check because I knew that I'll be getting late by the time I reach this point. So I said I'll just talk about the translation. So I kind of slackened off and I didn't check the verse. Anyway, I'll find out what it is.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Prabhuji. It's not easy. People say that karma, it's not easy to understand.
No.
More we think of, karma and gahana, it's so deep. More we think about karma, more we get, but you put it, the graph and, I think initially I was confused, but I think Prabhuji, you did so nice. Thank you.
Thank you, bro. So is everyone basically, don't be shy, please. If everyone not clear, then I'll repeat this thing next week, because I think it's a very important concept. So as long as at least 90% is clear, we are okay. So does somebody want to take the lead and tell me, how they feel?
Prabhu, this class is just superb, Prabhu. Like, just no words to explain. Like, I don't know, you're going rock bottom level in spite of all the knowledge you have to make things clear for us. But my question is the whole book text going to be this intense, Prabhu? I'm going to lose my mind.
So actually, after the first chapter, it gets easy. It's the first chapter that's really complicated. Believe me, it does get easy beyond chapter 1.
With you, with us, probably yes, but I don't know.
Thank you, Mataji. But I know you're very, very knowledgeable already, so you're just being very humble. But just trust me on this. After chapter 1, it gets a lot easier. A lot easier. Chapters are shorter. Concepts are a little simpler to understand. But that's why I'm making sure that we get the concepts of chapter 1 and the introduction. If you get those two, the rest of the book is a breeze. And if you don't get these two, introduction of chapter 1, then there'll be a problem later on also. And that's why I keep saying, don't understand it, stop me. It's my fault if I didn't explain it very well. If you don't understand it, my fault. I didn't explain it. So don't be shy. Let me get it. Let me have it, and say, Rupanuga, you're lousy. You didn't explain that at all very well. And explain it again, and I'll do that. But
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Chapter 1 of
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sudhanshu Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Very great class, Prabhuji. I still have a question.
Please go ahead.
Prabhu, can you please little bit explain about Bijam and Kutam again?
Sure. Just look at them very simply. Kutam is the proclivity for things, or inclination for things. Bijam is desire for things. So those are controlled by your modes of material nature, which determine what your nature is going to be, which means what's your proclivity and what are your desires.
So what is the difference between proclivity and desire?
Proclivity is inclination to do it, but not actually do it. Desire, proclivity is inclination towards a particular type of desire. I'm sorry. Proclivity is inclination towards a particular type of desire. So I was giving an example earlier.
Yes.
Proclivity could be to be kind or to be cruel. Could be to be studious or to be in sports. Could be to, in certain other types of activities, I suppose something different. Some proclivity is loving, some is not. Some is inclined towards book distribution, some is towards deity worship, some is towards chanting, some is towards classes, different proclivities. Those proclivities
So basically means what is your nature?
Yeah, exactly.
The nature.
Proclivity is inclination, nature, whatever you want to call it.
So proclivity is nature and desire, and the kuta is desire. That what kind of desires you can?
No. Kutam is proclivity.
Okay. And bijam is desire.
Damodar
what
Charan
kind of
Prabhu, I am
desires?
confused enough. Stop. You're going back and forth.
I can put the diagram back up if you want. Would you like that?
That will help.
Okay, let me do that then. Let me do that. Just to make sure, because it's very important that we understand these concepts. Okay. So I'm sorry about all the circles and all that, but here is Kutam, right? Tendencies, proclivities. See here? Bijam is desires. So your proclivities, your tendencies are determined by your modes of material nature. But in a way, so are your desires. It's combined is modes of material nature. But desires come out of your proclivities. So you can say when Kutam fructifies, it becomes desire. If that makes it any clearer. When Kutam matures, it turns into desires.
Prabhuji, can I understand it this way that Kutam is your nature and Bijam is how your nature when interacts with the three modes of material nature, how that turns up?
Sorry, say again, Prabhu. Sorry, say again.
So Kutam is something which is inherent and it's your nature. Bijam is when your nature interacts with the three modes of material nature. How does it the effect then becomes those acts or the desires are accordingly?
Not sure, Prabhu, but think about it this way. A seed sprouts. And so I'm hesitating because I'm using the word seed that might confuse you, but with bijam. But I'm just take totally differently. The example, seed sprouts. That is your kutam, and the sprouted will become the tree, which will give the. So it's different stages. It's different stages of your karma. So that's why I don't want to get too confusing. It's just, the word tendency should be very easy to understand.
Yeah, proclivity, tendency. Yeah.
So think that's Kutam. Let's not confuse it any further. Your tendencies, your proclivities are Kutam. Your desires are Bijam. It is the desires that turn into action. That's just natural phenomenon. And that turn into activity. So activity could be pap, punya, or devotional, depending upon the desire.
So, Prabhu,
I keep it very simple.
in simple words, basically Kutum, when nature, because of nature that person has acquired from material nature, because of that, different kinds of bijam or desires he acquires.
Correct. Okay, you can
comes
say
in
that.
his mind.
Yes.
And because of avidya, he acts on those desires, and with that becomes papa or punya.
No, because of avidya, the desires are impure.
Okay. So basically, they all are interrelated to each other.
Everything is related. This is all totally related. That's why stages means related. It's not becoming independent.
So it's basically, if you have vidya, if you have knowledge, gyan of Krishna, or gyan of the, in totality of spiritual life, then that bijam, that desires, turns into spiritual desires.
With devotional service, they'll become devotional desires. With vidya, they become punya desires, pious desires.
Right.
And with avidya, they become sinful desires or papa, resulting in papa, I should say.
So what is the definition of avidya and vidya?
Avidya is ignorance, vidya is knowledge.
Knowledge of scriptures?
Well, so that's why being careful, this topic of knowledge. Could be knowledge of scriptures, that becomes devotional service knowledge.
Okay.
Could be any other kind of knowledge, that is your knowledge. So you pious activities. So, for example, the Vedas, knowledge of the Vedas, which are also scriptures, is not necessarily devotional service. So you could be a impersonalist and still have knowledge of Vedas. You have the knowledge, but you have no devotion.
Thank you, Prabhu.
I hope I'm helping. Okay.
Prabhu, Kutum and Bijam, no? Can I correlate it to 2.62? Sangat Sanjayate Kamam. When you have association with the modes, when you have that association, it becomes desire, it becomes Bijam. Or am I confusing myself?
Yeah, don't confuse it. You get all mixed up.
Okay, I'm confusing. Okay,
yeah.
I won't.
Yeah.
Okay, Prabhu.
Yeah, that's totally different concept.
Yeah, context, right, Prabhu.
Context and concept. So this is different. So you'll get all mixed up if you try to compare that. So in your mind, don't complicate it. Keep it simple. My nature, my proclivities, my tendencies result into my desires, depending upon the state of desire, pure desire, impure desire, or devotional desire. I perform activities, pap, punya, or devotion. Pap and punya result in karmas. Devotion doesn't. If you keep it that simple, it's very easy to understand. You try to complicate it, you'll get all mixed up. So very simple. Proclivities, tendencies, desires. Avidya, vidya, devotion affects the nature of the bijam. It's the desires. So you get sinful desires, you get pure desires, or you get devotional desires. And those three result in three different types of activities: sinful activities, pious activities, or devotional activities. Pious and impious activities result in karma. Devotion doesn't. If you keep it simple as that, it's very easy to understand. You try to overcomplicate it in your mind, you get all confused. So make it simple. I always use the KISS concept. Keep it simple is stupid. That's me. So that's why, and I'm not trying to be modest. I am stupid, therefore keep it very simple and clear in my head. I don't get confused by this dialogue. By the way, I made this up. But if you try to be too intelligent about this, you'll overcomplicate, you'll get all mixed up. So keep it simple. I have karmas, they result in my proclivities, depending upon modes of material nature. They result in desires, depending upon avidya, vidya, or devotion. They result in three different activities, and that's it, I'm done. It's really that simple. Don't complicate it.
Your chart is clear actually. Avidya, Kutum, Bijam, Papam, Aprada, and Prarabdha.
If you keep it simple, it's very clear.
Yeah, that's why I put it down in my book.
Hari Bol.
That's very clear to read.
Sorry, somebody wanted to ask another question?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, this is Nanda Kumar.
Yes.
So from Prarabdha,
Yeah.
I mean, so what I understand is this is where we are, right? Like from Prarabdha, we are either enjoying or suffering.
Correct.
Now how do we understand, like, where does avidya or vidya or the devotional service come from? Like we are anyway here.
Correct.
In the cycle, like I mean, I hope you understood the question.
I understood the question. So Prabhu, the fact that we are in the material world, we are in avidya. Avidya brought us here. Now we want to convert it into either vidya or devotional vidya. And so I give the example of Lord Krishna saying in Bhagavad Gita, Tesham satat yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yen mam upyadate. He said, those who are constantly chanting my name, I give them the knowledge by which they come to me. So he's giving the knowledge of bhakti, which brings us to devotional activities, which brings us to Krishna. When bhakti is not there, then either avidya remains, or if you're jnani type, you get the other kind of vidya and you get pious activities, pious desires, pious activities.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. But avidya is no problem, it's available free. No effort required. Aur le lo, jitna mano le lo. It's all
Free,
there.
no charge.
No charge. 2 for 1. Yeah, no problem.
That was good, Prabhu.
Okay, so what do you say now?
Nothing to say now.
Okay, all right, then we say
Only to say that it was very good.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Kripā sindhubhaya
Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
भाई माता जी बोले नहीं बिल्कुल.